Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 846 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. And as you can tell by the ambient light, it is a gorgeous day here in beautiful Puerto Vallarta. We had some interesting few days. Yesterday, there was actually a little drizzle here in the afternoon, which is, for this time of the season, is the equivalent of torrential rain. And a couple of days ago, about 1,000 kilometers southeast of here, there was a 5.2, I think, earthquake. So we didn't feel anything, but that day there were some particularly high waves that came every now and then, and it climbed all the way up the beach, and like really all the way up to the beach, all the way about 50 feet close to where there were actually permanent structures. I had never seen water come up so high on the beach here, and all the times I've been here. It was not frightening because, I mean, it wasn't like this big tidal wave, but it was sort of like, oh, that's new and interesting. So I'm not sure whether or not, because we're on the complete other coast of Mexico, I'm not sure whether or not an earthquake on the other side of the country can literally create waves all around the globe. But yeah, it was an interesting day. It was a absolute no swim day. The red flags were out and all of that stuff. And yeah, just we've got some picked up some video of some waves crashing that are rather spectacular. Actually, I've never seen waves do that in my entire life. Of course, based on a previous visit where I got bowled over by a wave at one point. I have a very, 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 very healthy respect for the power of the ocean. So, but yeah, very interesting day. Very interesting day. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids, how is your mental health doing today? I have to say that mine is pretty good. I got a good night's rest. Last night's the show that I was able to do last night, I had to air this morning. It was just going to be too late to premiere it. Nobody was up really, so I decided to premiere it this morning rather than try to fit it through yesterday and do a second show, which would be today's. So you basically get a bonus Beaver Day. So it's a twofer. And given that we'll be speaking a little bit about Jamil, I think that it's a twofer is a little appropriate today. Don't you think? Yeah. Yeah, I'm being petty again. Yes. As you know, we've been calling these last two episodes The Weekend It All Went Boom. In the first episode, we talked a lot about stuff going on with the Conservative Party, their conventions, fallout out of there, the fact that some members, delegates, are not happy that certain influencers did not have to pay to attend the conference. They're claiming that, well, we were going to go anyway when we paid for a hotel, so it's no big deal. But yeah, it would appear that it was a big deal that journalists are reporting that some of these crew of influencers were going behind the curtains a few times for some private meetings. And over the course of this show, we are going to look into what might have been an assignment, Skippy air quotes, that they received while they were back there, because there was some coordinated action over the course of the past few days in an attempt to smear Prime Minister Carney with things related to the Jeffrey Epstein files, which we will also talk about on this show because that also has gone boom and has gone global. Now, you might say that Epstein is already global, but yes, everyone around the world is talking about it, and it does involve people from around the world. But this is really going global, as in the investigation is as well. And finally, kids and cubs, we will be talking about the intersection of sports and politics, because over the weekend, for those, depending on whether or not you are a football fan or not, there was a football game at which, during which Bad Bunny basically performed in the Super Bowl halftime show, or there was a Bad Bunny concert that happened within a football game, whichever one you like. But that has had people going a little bit apoplectic. So, and is there any more we got for you today? Oh, yes. And then Pierre Poilievre attempted to gaslight the nation again in order to find a way to blame Mark Carney for something that is actually the law. So, yeah, let's get into it, kids and cubs. Ah, let's see. What do we start with? What do we start with? Let's start with the Epstein stuff because it's pretty big. In the United States, as you know, there's been the strategic delaying of a releasing of the files, which is judicially mandated. And of course, there was an act that was passed also in Congress to get these files released. And well, the Department of Justice has been pretty much disregarding the legal order, taking its sweet old time getting stuff out. But it seems that a lot of stuff is out, but as we had suggested, maybe not everything, and it seems that indeed is the case that maybe not everything is out just yet. Interesting. So, with the news of with the release, basically, there's a database that you can go to. I think it's justice.gov/Epstein, and you can look through the database yourself, all the files that are there. And Democrats have been going at seeing some unredacted documents. And in addition, with the release of all these files, several nations have started doing their own investigations into things related to Epstein when it deals with people of their own country. I believe in France, there was a person whose last name is Lang. And, well, he had to step down from his current position. He's Jack Lang, France's former culture minister, resigned over Epstein-linked tax, over what was in there, basically. According to the Associated Press, France's former culture minister Jack Lang has resigned as head of the Paris Cultural Center over alleged past financial links to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein that prompted a tax investigation. He is the highest profile figure in France impacted by the release of the Epstein files on January 30th by the US Department of Justice. He is known for his role as a culture minister under socialist President François Mitterrand in the 1980s and 1990s. Lang, who was 86, was summoned to appear at the French Foreign Ministry, which oversees the Arab World Institute, on Sunday, but instead he submitted his resignation. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so basically, his name was mentioned more than 600 times in the Epstein files, showing intermittent correspondence between 2012 and 2019. Of course, Epstein's conviction or confession that he had done things that were horrible. And we would say, normally the word we use is unspeakable, but this needs to be spoken because the truth needs to come out. But that he had intermittent correspondence between 2012 and 2019. So, yeah. That happened. And then, of course, there's stuff that has popped up in Norway that, according to CNN, threatens to split Norway's royal family in two. And these are not the only royals, as we know, that have been affected by this story. But according to, let me see which publication here. Yes, like I mentioned, still CNN. Norway's royal family were battling scandals on multiple fronts this week, with charities moving to cut or review ties to the crown princess for her past contact with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, while others questioned her suitability to the role of future queen. The first controversy is that of 29-year-old son of Crown Princess Mette Marit, Marius Borg Høiby, who earlier this week broke down in tears during his first day of testimony as he denied 4 counts of rape in an Oslo court. Høiby sits outside the line of succession as he was born before his mother married Crown Prince Haakon in 2001. Haakon reaffirmed Høiby's status as a commoner in a rare statement ahead of the R-word trial. I'm just going to say it. I know that a lot. I think there might be some YouTube. There's certain words apparently on YouTube that are a little more difficult to use, and you sort of have to soft pedal them when you're talking about them. But I mean, this is what it is. It's a rape trial. Starting on Tuesday, saying his stepson was, quote, not a member of the Royal House of Norway and is therefore autonomous. But new Epstein files released by the US Justice Department show extensive correspondence between Mette Marit and the late sex offender, something the princess has since expressed regret over, years after Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting sex from a minor. So that is happening there. Then, of course, in the UK, where we've been talking about Prince Andrew for quite a while, who has been stripped of his titles, but it would seem that that is not enough. And it seems that the monarchy in the UK is not going to stand in the way of anything more that might come from there. So that is kind of interesting. According to ABC News here, Diana Paulson and Zoe McGee, it says here that while the latest release of the Epstein files has touched off another round of controversy in the US, it has ignited a veritable firestorm in Europe, where the new tranche of emails, text messages, whoops, the screen did a little jump here, videos on photographs released by the department, a new tranche of emails, text messages, videos, and photographs released by the Department of Justice has painted a far more comprehensive picture of the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with members of the global elite. And while a mention in the files does not immediately imply wrongdoing, going to be touching on that later. Last week's data dump has led to a course of high-profile figures explaining and in many cases apologizing for their connection to Epstein. Reputations have been tarnished, in some cases irrevocably. Sorry, there's another word I have trouble with, irrevocably. These latest files show the range and depth of Epstein's extraordinary reach into the upper echelons of society. Among the new names from the European elite are Norway's crown princess and the Slovak national security advisor. For now, the repercussions are being felt most acutely in the UK, where a prince of the realm has lost his title and his home. A senior member of the governing Labour Party has lost his position in the House of Lords. A police investigation has been launched into misconduct in public office, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer, whose name has not appeared in the released files, is now fighting for his political survival. The recently published files have laid bare the extent of Epstein's contact with the former Prince Andrew and former British Ambassador Peter Mandelson, touching off crisis at both the heart of the government and the monarchy. Quote, "The scandal seems to matter more here with graver consequences because it strikes at the monarchy, the British establishment, and the political elite. It's not just about the behavior of one disgraced man," Robert Jobson, royal author and ABC royal contributor, told ABC News. "There are difficult questions for the monarchy to face," Jobson said. Quote, "If senior royal family members and courtiers knew about Epstein's activities and did nothing, and if they, quote, chose to protect the monarchy at the expense of vulnerable young women. If they did not know, then the institution they oversee is not merely flawed, but dangerously incompetent. Neither explanation is excusable," Jobson said. Buckingham's Palace most recent statement on the matter, which came on October 25th, announced the stripping of Andrew's titles and said, quote, "Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors in any and all forms of abuse." There have been public hecklings in which both the King and Queen have been asked whether they will help with the Epstein investigation. At that time, neither responded. This is an article from about 4 days ago now. I think there has been an update since. But that I mentioned, where it seems where the UK will not stand in the way of future investigations. And it seems, well, as we mentioned, the police in the UK are looking into that. So, yeah, and I'm going to guess that this is happening in other countries too. According to CNN, this was 1 day ago. This was the part where I said here, apparently King Charles is ready to support police as they address claims his brother Andrew shared confidential material with Epstein. King Charles stands ready to support British police as they assess a report that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor allegedly shared confidential material with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during the former prince's role as a UK trade envoy. The latest tranche of Epstein files released by the US Justice Department, which have sparked renewed scrutiny of the disgraced royal, appear to show Mountbatten Windsor sent confidential material to Epstein in 2010, again, 2 years after his confession. Graham Smith, the chief executive of British anti-monarchist group Republic, said Monday he had reported Mountbatten Windsor to police for, quote, suspected misconduct in public office and breach of official secrets. On Monday, Thames Valley Police told CNN, quote, "We confirm receipt of this report and are assessing the information in line with our established procedures." Later Monday, a spokesperson for Buckingham Palace said King Charles had, quote, "made clear in words and through unprecedented actions his profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's conduct. While the specific claims in question are for Mr. Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them, as you would expect," the spokesperson said. Wow. Okay. With regard to the British, the former UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, he quit the UK's House of Lords last week after the latest files appeared to show he leaked market-sensitive government information to Epstein in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. British police raided 2 properties linked to Mandelson on Friday as part of an investigation into misconduct in public office. CNN has been unable to contact Mandelson's representative. Mandelson has previously said he was, quote, "wrong to believe Epstein following his conviction and to continue my association with him afterwards." See, this is one thing I don't understand, and it's one thing I've not understood for a lot of things. It's not just this type of stuff, but when a guy pleads guilty to this type of activity, at least in my reality, that means you cut all ties. You don't want that anywhere near around you. It's not, oh, well, he pleaded guilty for that, but gee, he's a good economic person. So, let's keep on doing business with this person. And that's one of the reasons I don't understand why it is that people are still recording music and doing duets with Chris Brown after what he did to Rihanna. Right? And why he's still being nominated for Grammys and all that type of stuff. At some point, you disassociate yourself from people who do these types of things. But money talks, I guess, and people did not do that in this case. So that is, again, not great. As we mentioned, there is also stuff going on in Poland. And Poland was the first one that I came across in my on my socials when I saw it, and then it seemed to be basically going around the world. But according to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Poland is going to probe links between Epstein and Russian intelligence. Oh yeah, it gets bigger. Basically, the short version here is that Poland will launch an investigation into possible links between the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and Russian intelligence, as well as any impact on Poland, Prime Minister Donald Tusk says. Now, we know that Poland, particularly Prime Minister Tusk, has no F's to give when it comes to Russia during the whole Ukraine stuff, which is still going on, but early in the days, Poland was like, yeah, we're ready to go in. Can we go in now? Let's go. And everybody's going, no. But yeah, they were ready. Yes. The U.S. Justice Department's release of millions of internal documents related to Epstein has revealed the late financier and sex offender's ties to many prominent people in politics, finance, academia, and business, both before and after he pleaded guilty in 2008 to prostitution charges. Mr. Tusk told a government meeting that authorities would establish a team to investigate any potential fallout in Poland from Epstein's crimes, in particular in relation to what he said was possible involvement by Russian Secret Service. Russia's foreign ministry did not immediately reply to a written request for comment on Mr. Tusk's allegations. The Russian embassy in Warsaw also did not immediately respond to email requests for comments. Quote, more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented pedophilia scandal was co-organized by Russian intelligence services. I don't need to tell you how serious the increasingly likely possibility that Russian intelligence services co-organized this operation is for the security of the Polish state. This can only mean that they also possess compromising materials against many leaders still active today. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said in December that the Epstein files showed the hypocrisy of Western elites. Quote, here, as I understand, we're all the Western lecturers on life who looked down on Russia, who lectured us about democracy and human rights in interesting poses with equally interesting leisure partners, she said on Telegram. The Department of Justice release of files has further exposed links between Epstein and the rich and powerful, including U.S. President Donald Trump, as well as former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. So this is looking like, as you know, Russia is famous or infamous for compromise, finding people or creating situations in which people can find themselves in compromising positions and then getting that documented and then using that in order to keep them in line or get what they want. And it is starting to look like the picture that is being drawn here is that Jeffrey Epstein was some type of a Russian asset sent out there to appeal to very rich and powerful people's basest and most vile instincts and desires. And then, therefore, by doing so, creating evidence, documented evidence, that could be used to get them to do what those who possessed that evidence would want, so that they could maintain their standing and position and reputation. And so long as they complied, the information stayed secret. It would also explain why Donald Trump has had rarely a cross word to say about Putin, and why complying with the judicial order to release everything immediately that was issued a while ago still has not been fully complied with. Technically, not technically, they are in contempt of court, pretty much at the moment. And well, we all know that Donald Trump appears to have learned a thing or two from Compromat, because as you know, recently, when Donald Trump was not happy with the European nations standing against him in his desire to acquire Greenland, Donald Trump suddenly started to leak text message conversations that he thought would make them look bad. And when that happens, like, what other country does that kind of stuff? Oh, yeah. So this is what it's kind of starting to look like at the moment. And if that's the case, then one could understand why so many very powerful people of high status and high fortune and power would do anything in order to keep this news from coming out. It would also explain why we are now in 2026, and even though Jeffrey Epstein confessed to those prostitution charges in 2008, some people are only regretting 22 years later having maintained contact. Mm-hmm. Sure you regret having maintained contact. That's what you regret. Not that the information has come out. Not that your names are all throughout the press. Not that you're publicly humiliated. And interestingly enough, people are stepping down from positions all around the world except for in the United States. Funny that. In the United States, things are not going well as well, because, well, one of our favorite people, Howard Nutlick, well, turns out that he may have lied. He stated very, very unequivocally that he has not had any contact of any kind with Epstein after that 2008 confession, but that does not seem to be true at all. It seems that there is some documentation that shows indeed continued interaction. So this is Howard Lutnick, currently the U.S. Commerce Secretary, probably not for long, because, well, Donald Trump, when things get a little too hot, he likes to throw people under the bus and dispatch them. So starting a pool for when Mr. Lutnick will no longer be Commerce Secretary. But here it says, U.S. Commerce Secretary. This is a CBC article written by, it's a Thomson Reuters article as appeared in CBC. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick sought to distance himself on Tuesday from Jeffrey Epstein, alleging, quote, he barely had anything to do with. Barely is not the same as nothing, which is what you originally claimed, to do with the convicted sex offender amid calls for his resignation over new revelations about ties between them. The U.S. Justice Department in January published millions of new files related to Epstein, including emails that show Lutnick apparently visited Epstein's private island for lunch years after he claimed to have cut off ties. Went to the island. There's a big, big, big difference between I have had no contact with him whatsoever since, and somehow finding yourself on his island for lunch. That's a big gap. Oh boy. Let's see. Boy. Lutnick pushed back in a Senate hearing, saying the two men had exchanged only about 10 emails over 14 years and that a lunch with Epstein only took place because Lutnick was on a boat near his island, and added that his family was present. Quote, I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person, he told a Senate committee under questioning from Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen. Lutnick is just one of a host of powerful men in politics, business, and entertainment, including U.S. President Donald Trump himself, who are under fire for their ties with Epstein, in a reflection of the elite circles Epstein inhabited, and apparently Ghislaine Maxwell, who had everything to say at one point when she was confessing stuff, is apparently now pleading the fifth on certain things. Now that people who are not, I believe Todd Blanchett, I think is his name, are asking her questions. And a lot of people are suggesting that maybe she should be returning to a full maximum security jail until such time as she's willing not to plead the fifth anymore. Lutnick is also in the hot seat over apparent contradictions between the documents and his prior remarks about Epstein, who lived next door to former Cantor Fitzgerald CEO in New York at the time. Lutnick previously claimed he vowed, quote, to never be in a room with Epstein following a 2005 incident in which the financier showed Lutnick a massage table at his townhouse and made a sexually suggestive comment. But the email showed that in addition to the 2012 lunch, Epstein's assistant forwarded him an invitation from Lutnick in November 2015 to a fundraiser at his financial firm for Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. I know and my wife knows that I have done absolutely nothing wrong in any possible regard, Lutnick said at a Tuesday hearing. Let's see. His conviction he confessed in 2008, so Howard Lutnick said he had no contact with him between 2005, but sending invitations to come to luncheons and showing up at lunch at his island because his boat happened to be in the area. But he hardly knows him. Sure, Jan. Sure. Wow. The hearing comes a day after Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer questions at a deposition before the House Oversight Committee, according to lawmakers, drawing criticism from both Republican and Democratic members of Congress. Meanwhile, the heads of the agencies carrying out President Donald Trump's mass deportation agenda are testifying in Congress Tuesday and faced questions on over how they are prosecuting immigration enforcement inside American cities. Things not going great for the Trump administration and not going particularly well for Donald Trump either, because it would appear that I believe there's a member of Congress. His name is Thomas Massie, I believe, who it would appear, at least according to him, has received a thumb drive with everything, unredacted. And he has the names. And he has threatened, even though he is legally barred from releasing the names, that if those names are not disclosed relatively soon, that he will take it upon himself to just read them out. Consequences be damned. According to, who is this? Crisnell Longino of International Business Times. It says here, the Epstein Files controversy has erupted into a political firestorm after U.S. Representative Thomas Massie threatened to publicly expose alleged clients' names if the Department of Justice refuses to release fully unredacted documents. His warning intensified scrutiny of officials accused of shielding powerful figures, transforming the long-running scandal into a fresh battle over transparency, justice for survivors, and the limits of government secrecy. With millions of files still sealed and lawmakers prepared to examine secret material in a secure reading room, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie's warning has intensified pressure on officials accused of protecting powerful figures. His dramatic pledge to use what he calls, quote, a nuclear option, has turned the long-running Epstein scandal into a fresh battle over transparency, justice for survivors, and the role of government secrecy. Massie has vowed to escalate the fight over Epstein documents if authorities continue withholding key information. After gaining access to unredacted materials alongside Democrat Ro Khanna, Massie said he is prepared to read out alleged client names on the House floor if the Department of Justice refuses to release them publicly. He argues that more than 3 million files remain hidden despite legislation requiring disclosure without redactions aimed solely at protecting reputations. During a television appearance, Massie accused officials of ignoring the law and said survivors deserve accountability. His threat has triggered fierce debate, with supporters calling him courageous, while critics warned that public naming without legal confirmation could have serious consequences. Last year, Congress passed a measure requiring the Department of Justice to release Epstein-related documents without excessive redactions. Yet, despite a large document dump, many pages remain sealed or heavily censored. Massey claims the most important materials include FBI interview summaries known as 302 files, which contain testimony from witnesses and alleged victims. He has also criticized the release process for exposing some victims while allegedly concealing the names of possible perpetrators. Lawmakers will be allowed to inspect files in a tightly controlled reading room after giving advance notice, and they may only take written notes. The strict conditions have added to frustration among politicians who believe the public is being denied crucial information. The latest batch of documents has sparked further outrage due to several disturbing references found within heavily redacted emails. Among them are messages thanking Epstein for a, quote, fun night, a chilling note allegedly granting permission to harm an unnamed person, and a reference to a, quote, torture video. A separate prosecution memo from 2019 discussing potential liability for Epstein associates was briefly uploaded before being removed from public view. Massey has argued that over-redaction hides key details such as senders' identities and the full context of communications. He also called for greater scrutiny of officials and associates mentioned in the file, including claims that certain political and business figures maintained relationships with Epstein after his conviction. The controversy has escalated into a broader political clash involving senior figures in the Trump administration and the Department of Justice. Massey has vowed to question Attorney General Pam Bondi over delayed disclosures, the handling of sensitive information, and the continued secrecy surrounding major documents. His comments have fueled an intense online reaction, with some praising his determination while others fear potential legal risks if names are publicly revealed. As congressional committees prepare to review confidential materials, pressure continues to mount from both lawmakers and the public demanding transparency. Massey's warning has already reignited one of the most explosive debates surrounding the Epstein files and the powerful networks linked to the case. And, kids and cubs, I'm sure that your ears pricked up when you heard the words torture video in this previous article. Well, according to Newsweek, a story by Shane Croucher, Sultan Ahmad bin Sulayem was named by Massey over Epstein's torture video email. Kentucky Representative Thomas Massey named the Emirati businessman Sultan Ahmad bin Sulayem as the individual Jeffrey Epstein had emailed about a, quote, torture video. Sulayem is chairman and CEO of DP World, a major global logistics firm based in UAE, United Arab Emirates. Newsweek has contacted DP World's media office via email for comment. The emails were released by the Department of Justice in the Epstein files, but one sender's name was redacted. Lawmakers have been able to view the unredacted files. Epstein sent an email on April 24th, 2009 that said, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video." Of course he would. That is gold-plated, gold-dipped compliment, isn't it? The recipient's email address and name were redacted, but Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the recipient was identified in the file EFTA 00666, interesting, 117, which named Sultan bin Sulayem while redacting the email address. The nature of the torture video is not known. They replied a day later to say, "I am in China. I will be in the US second week of May." So Massey said, if you don't release it, I will release names, and then showed that he is willing to release names, but giving the people at the DOJ the chance to finally get it right by first releasing a name. That is not of an American. But he's clearly willing to drop names. Today, on my feeds, I saw that there were certain representatives that have gone in to that secure location to take a look at those documents. And when it comes to this, it's not just Lutnick who's in trouble, but it escalated with regard to the President of the United States, Donald Trump himself. There is one representative who did go into that area to look at the documents. And there's a reporter who was asking her questions, I guess, as she was walking away. And, well, yeah, it's not great, kids and cubs. We're talking about Representative, let me just have her name, Becca Balint, who's a congresswoman for Vermont. And she confirms that she saw in unredacted Epstein files that Trump never kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, as Trump has claimed. Oh, I saw that he was creepy, whatnot, and I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, and I never had anything to do with him again. Her quote, literally, that's a lie. That's a lie. Wow. And it seems that there is documented evidence that would indicate that it is indeed a lie. Now, not that any of us ever doubted that it was a lie because, well, Trump lies like he breathes. But there are receipts. This is not going to get better for him anytime soon. Bringing this back home, soon after the Conservative Party of Canada convention in Calgary, in which the alleged leader of His Majesty's most disloyal opposition, Pierre Poilievre, was reconfirmed as leader of the Conservative Party. That convention in which those paid influencers allegedly were going behind the curtain for meetings, even though they are spraying up and down and all around, that they never had any access and were not special access, that they were just there like media, independent media, to cover this kind of stuff and gained no access whatsoever. Well, there's a Twitter account that you might want to follow, particularly recommended, that goes by Sask Kate. So Sask as in Saskatchewan, Kate, C-A-T-E. And that's so at, if you're looking for the actual Twitter feed, at C-A-T-E-S-A-S-K. And well, it would appear that she has obtained information that media points and talking points were indeed circulated to these influencers, even though they claim up and down that they haven't. She refers to, and we've talked about her a little bit on the, no, we actually haven't talked about her, a person named Jasmine Lane as Timu Erica Kirk. And Jasmine Lane posted a tweet at one point that said, well, there goes the notion that only people on the right are conspiracy theorists. Here are the facts. A few people were invited to the CPC convention as influencers. Important to note, each and every one of us planned on going anyways, had already paid for our transportation and hotels, and some were waiting to see if we were approved for the media passes we applied for. Yes, because you normally show up to an event for which you don't have a pass, hoping that one will come once you're there. Mm-hmm. Others already had their observer delegate badges. The invitation included no payment, no talking points, no briefings, no strategy access, no preferential treatment, no special meetings, no control over content, and no special access. Sass Kate says, remember when Timo Erica Kirks were up and down, they didn't get talking points emailed to them? Yeah, they did. These are the emails. So the next time they're on here lecturing about you about truth, independence, and how everyone else is lying, remember this moment. They looked you in the face and lied because they assumed you'd never see the receipts. Spoiler, we did. If you follow any of these influencer past people, go take a look yourself. See how many of them are suddenly parroting the exact same lines like well-trained little minions who just discovered copy and paste. Independent thinkers, but make it synchronized. And you've got, well, the, the usual cast of characters are there. The guy who currently plays the role of Mario for the North on Twitter, the guy who currently plays the role of Truck Driver Pleb on Twitter. They're usually, and well, the rest of the crew. You've got that photo of them all together, all happy, that's been circulating around the web. But if you look at the emails, there's a email here that says, "Hi all, with many of you folks heading to Calgary today or tomorrow, I wanted to share a bit of info about some of the broader themes conservatives are focused on and will likely be discussed. Would love to touch base with you folks throughout." Oh, no special access. Would love to touch base with you folks throughout, so feel free to send me a text at, and then hence the number. Themes, unity, hope, rhetoric versus results, fight for Canada, top line, make life affordable. After 10 years of Liberals, Canadians can't afford to live. Basics have turned into luxuries. Homeownership is out of reach, and crime rages on our streets. Conservatives will lower taxes, fight inflation, and bring down the cost of housing, groceries, and energy so people who work hard can get ahead again. Real change, not just rhetoric. Mark Carney changed the rhetoric, not the results. Costs are higher, housing is scarcer, and crime is worse. Conservatives will cut red tape, approve and build projects, and produce more to deliver jobs and stronger take-home pay for Canadians. PR Conservatives unite and empower Canadians. Liberals grow government and divide Canadians. Conservatives empower people and unite Canadians around jobs, family, and country. Pierre built a bigger, more durable coalition, earning most votes in the party's history. He is continuing to do the work to grow the coalition even more. But the movement is strong. And then convention process and add-on, if pressed. Grassroots proposals show a passionate membership and healthy debate, but resolutions don't automatically become the election platform. That is built through consultation with caucus, the policy team, expert stakeholders, and in the end, the leader of the party makes the final decisions. And there's more. There's pages of this. Literal change is an illusion. Remember when Pierre came up and said, it's all an illusion. Liberals look after themselves. Pierre fights for you. I'm reading Mark Burry's excellent book, Ripper, while I'm in here, and it is replete with examples of Pierre Poilievre taking on the tragedies that have happened to other people and then making them about himself fighting for them. Let's be clear. Pierre Poilievre is not a fighter. Pierre Poilievre is a storyteller. And there is nobody's misery that he will not exploit in order to tell a good story in which he is somehow at the center of it, fighting for people. So, after this convention, you remember, because you've probably seen it all over the socials, there was a coordinated campaign to suggest that Mark Carney was also part of this whole Epstein scandal, that he had been to the island, that there's lots of things that we need to look into because his name was mentioned 69 times in that whole file. Now, you have to remember that Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020, around that time, and that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in finance. So, yes, it is possible that there would be some documents related to Mark Carney somewhere, or any governor of the Bank of England at that particular time. But now we have a sense of why it is this group was given the assignment to spear Mark Carney. There's another U.S. representative, Balint. I'm not sure from where he is the representative at the moment. I would have to look that up, and I will do that a little bit. But they also got an interview with him as he was coming out of looking for files, and basically says, this is a quote, so pardon the language, they're a bunch of sick fucks. So many people knew. Okay. Whew. Unfortunately, this is not the first time the Conservative Party of Canada has tried this play. We'll give you a flashback to 2015 when they tried to gain public support for an overreaching bill, the kind of thing that they routinely accuse Liberals of doing, in which they tried to gain legal authority to snoop into private citizens' emails on the basis of wanting to look for child pornography. And we had that famous sentence that you may remember: either you stand with us or you stand with the child pornographers, suggesting that if you were had any issue with the civil liberties aspect of having the government have incredible powers to go and snoop into your own emails, that therefore you must be, you must have something, child pornography, somewhere related on your computer, because that's the only reason for which you could have a problem with such overreach. According to John Ibbotson in a Globe and Mail article published February 13th, 2012. Canada's privacy commissioners will be surprised to hear it, but the Conservatives are accusing anyone who opposes their bill to give police new powers to monitor the internet of supporting child pornography. Remember, the Conservatives said Justin Trudeau wants to censor the internet. Yeah, they were trying to do that in 2012, and if you oppose them, then you support child pornography. John Ibbotson mentions in the article, a similar comment may have cost Stephen Harper the 2004 election. We'll get to that. But with the next election years away, it's hard to know whether or when Public Safety Minister Vic Tays will change his tune. The article then goes on. If you want to read it yourself, you can. It's called Tories on E-Snooping, Stand With Us or With the Child Pornographers. Then, that highlighted 2004 mention, that's when they tried to smear Liberal leader Paul Martin. According to CBC article, June 12th, 2004, the Conservatives retracted a news release issued Friday with headline reading, Paul Martin supports child pornography? ? Because the question mark makes it a question rather than a statement of fact, therefore allows you to avoid defamation lawsuits. But then they later changed it to, how tough is Paul Martin on child pornography? The release, which stated, Martin says he's against child pornography, but his voting record proves otherwise. And it was sent out to the media, but then recalled 1 hour later. And here's the thing. Though we just celebrated 20 years since Stephen Harper was elected, and many are praising his current alleged statesmanship, we remember what he was really like when he was in the job. According to that same article, Conservative leader Stephen Harper admitted the language of the headline may have been somewhat strong. May have been somewhat strong? Really? But he didn't backtrack on the message. Quote, what's in bad taste is the Liberal Party's record on child pornography, Harper told reporters. I will attack them on it, and if they want to fight the rest of the election on it, good luck to them. Media backlash against the headline pushed the Conservatives to change the headline. Party spokesperson Rhonda Walker told CBC-CA, but the body of the release remained the same. And they didn't stop at Martin. They also tried to smear the late NDP with that. Another Conservative news release titled, The NDP Caucus Supports Child Pornography? Again, with a question mark. For that fig leaf of plausible, oh no, we weren't trying to defame anyone. We were just asking questions. accuses 11 caucus members of voting against prohibiting the creation or use of child pornography. Quote, the NDP does not support child pornography, and it's hard to imagine a worse day to play politics with this issue, read a party statement. And that was not the only time, if you remember, that the Conservatives tried to smear Jack Layton with accusations of sexual impropriety. Remember April 30th, 2011? Canadian Press article. Police probe leak behind report of Layton massage clinic visit. Media reports that police found NDP leader Jack Layton in a Toronto massage parlor in 1996 became the focus of a criminal investigation by Ontario Provincial Police on Saturday. Sun TV, remember that? Reported Friday that Layton was at a Toronto massage parlor during a police raid 15 years ago, but wasn't arrested or charged. The network is attributing the information to notes taken by police officers at the time. And here's the part of the article that was important. The story surfaced at the critical closing spurt of a federal election campaign where polls showed the surging New Democrats have rocketed into second place behind the Conservatives. Oh, the New Democrats are doing well, so let's just say that Jack Layton went to a massage parlor to do things, maybe solicit a happy ending, and then let our minions do the rest. In a CBC article about the same thing, states Jack Layton again dismissed the story as innuendo and smear politics just days before the Monday's election. And the Liberals were also a victim of this in the previous election, not having to do with sexual impropriety. But remember when former RCMP commissioner, I think it is, Zachary Daly, released some information that would suggest that Ralph Goodale from Saskatchewan had the only Liberal MP from Saskatchewan at the time had given some investors some insider information about the government's decision on whether or not income trusts would be taxed. And right before, a couple of days before the actual election day, and that about a week before, and that created a big dip in Liberal fortunes and allowed the Conservatives to win. And that also was under Stephen Harper. Again, when I say the statesmanship thing that he's doing now, these are the reasons for which I do not trust him more than I can throw him, and that I will only believe this when it lasts for a long, long, long time, that there's been a change with this man. There's also what he did to Helena Georges and Raheem Jaffer, including, I think, they also accused them of some sexual impropriety involving cocaine and I think doing blow off the body of a sex worker or something like that. Just say it's true. Let the minions do the rest, which is a very familiar tactic, right? Donald Trump. Hey, Ukraine, just say Joe Biden did something corrupt and we'll take care of the rest. Hey, Governor of Georgia, just say the election was stolen and we'll take care of the rest. Just say it. Just put it out there. Give us something to build on. It's a go-to tactic. Quote, I've seen this kind of thing before, Jack Layton said. I don't think Canadians appreciate it. I think what they want us to do is focus on the issues. Layton was never arrested or charged in retaliation in relation to the police interview. Meanwhile, CBC News has learned that the Toronto police have asked the Ontario Provincial Police to conduct a criminal breach of trust investigation into the leak of official police notes cited in the Sun media report about Layton. And if you don't remember, the Sun TV was the failed attempt by the Conservative Party of Canada to start a TMU Fox News North type operation. No surprise that they're the ones who pushed this story. Smearing Canadians with accusations of supporting child porn, sexual impropriety, or being pedophiles has been a go-to MO for the Conservative Party of Canada since its inception. I'm not talking about progressive conservatives. I'm talking about since the inception of the Conservative Party of Canada, when the right was united. These are not good people. And in recent years, anyone who supports transgender or rainbow rights has been referred to as a pedo or a groomer at least 100 times online by this entire movement. It got so bad that the courts had to get involved. If you remember, I think it was, it was in 2025, yeah, last year, 2024, around Christmas maybe or so, we had an interview with lawyer Douglas Judson of Judson Howie LLP about an effort to curtail that because people were just going online and accusing everybody of being groomers and pedophiles, which is about the worst thing that you could say about someone. Well, on August 20th, 2025, things got so bad that things had to go to court for this. And in August 20th, 2025, the Ontario Superior Court of Justice awarded $1.75 million in damages plus costs to a group of 8 plaintiffs who were targeted by an anti-2S LGBTQIA plus libel campaign administered by the owner of a website and a series of interconnected social media accounts. In KT, that's the Canadian AIDS Treatment Information Exchange, et al. Versus Blackwell 2025, Ontario Superior Court case 4678, the plaintiffs were the Canadian AIDS Treatment Information Exchange and 8 of its volunteer directors and staff members. CATI is a national not-for-profit corporation that provides treatment and prevention information on HIV, AIDS, and hepatitis C. It works to support marginalized and at-risk populations, including people who use drugs, members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and other vulnerable groups. Beginning in May 2023, the defendant Peter Scott Blackwell launched an online libel campaign against the plaintiffs on his website and several associated X accounts and Facebook pages. He repeatedly and explicitly accused Katie, its staff, and its board of directors of sexually grooming children. Blackwell created individual profiles on his website for each of the plaintiffs as well as for other current and former Katie directors and staffs. On these profiles, he labeled each person a groomer, a term he explicitly defined as a person who seeks to sexually manipulate and abuse children. His social media posts referred to the plaintiffs as creeps, groomers, and pedophiles and predators, and linked back to those profiles. Each profile also prominently referred to Katie as a, quote, sexually explicit child grooming content provider. Blackwell's harassment of Katie and its personnel included dozens of online posts, the largest share of which targeted Katie's director of communications, Andrew Brett, who was the subject of at least 34 defamatory publications. Blackwell also left harassing, expletive-laden voicemail messages at Katie's offices in which he called staff, quote, excuse the language, fucking child grooming pedophiles and dirty, dirty, rotten fucking child abusing pedophiles, stating that they belonged in jail after he was served with notice of libel. He escalated his defamatory postings. Service of the statement of claim on Blackwell, who lives in Kelowna, British Columbia, was validated in August 2024. Blackwell failed to defend the action, and in May 2025, the plaintiff's motion for default judgment was heard by McVeigh G., presiding in Ottawa. Her Honor concluded that the publications at issue were, quote, plainly defamatory, referring to the court's recent decision in Rainbow Alliance Dryden et al. Versus Webster, which confirmed that alleging persons associated with the 2S LGBTQIA+ community are groomers is defamatory. The court distinguished Rainbow Alliance on the basis that the defendant in that case had strongly implied pedophilia or a child sexual exploitation, whereas Blackwell's statements were very explicit. The court awarded a total of $1,255,000 in general damages. Of this amount, $350,000 was awarded to Katie, $300,000 to Mr. Brett, and $100,000 to each of 6 other individual plaintiffs. In determining general damages, Her Honor wrote, quote, it is also clear that the defendant targeted the plaintiffs because of their important work with Katie, an organization dedicated to promoting the health and well-being of marginalized communities. By accusing the plaintiffs of pedophilia due to their work with the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, the defendant perpetuated long-standing anti-gay stereotypes and exposed the plaintiffs to hatred and potential violence. And if you remember, during the fight to legalize equal marriage, this was also a claim that conservatives made often. That gays were pedophiles and groomers, or what's next? Are we going to have people marrying their pets? Because being gay is also akin to bestiality. You can see why it is that I have a problem with this current iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada. and certain conservative movements altogether, because they have no problem saying the absolute worst things about others when their closets are far, far, far from clean. In awarding aggravated damages, Her Honor found that the defendant's conduct was malicious, sustained, and fueled by hate, thereby compounding the harm suffered by plaintiffs. She went on to condemn the historical roots of groomer rhetoric as damaging slurs targeting the queer community, writing, quote, "The defendant perpetuated a baseless and deeply damaging stereotype linking members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ communities to pedophilia, a false accusation that has long been used to marginalize, criminalize, and dehumanize gay people. This baseless stereotype has historically rationalized discrimination and incited acts of hatred, harassment, and even physical violence. Use of the term groomer in this context was plainly homophobic. Well, now it seems that the conservative movement doesn't reserve that treatment only for members of the rainbow community, but for any progressive or liberal politician now. Paul Martin, Jack Lee, Mark Carney. In her assessment of aggravated damages, Her Honor also recognizes the threat that the defendant's publication posed to Katie's work, which supports the needs of at-risk and vulnerable populations. Quote, "The defendant's conduct also undermined Katie's vital work and the efforts of its staff and volunteers. Katie's mission is to support health workers and to assist vulnerable and at-risk populations in preventing and managing blood-borne and sexually transmitted infections. By targeting Katie's staff and members of its volunteer board with defamatory accusations of pedophilia, the defendant risked deterring volunteer participation and impairing Katie's ability to attract and retain skilled personnel, therefore jeopardizing the organization's operations, and therefore also indirectly threatening the lives of the people that Katie would help." Wow. So this is not new for this bunch. This is who they are. This is what they do. Now, back to the recent attempts to smear Mark Carney. It was so coordinated, in fact, that CBC had to do a fact check because his name did appear 69 times in those documents about Epstein. Again, if you go to justice.gov/Epstein, you will see, you can check for yourself, and you will see that Mark Carney's name does appear. But how does it appear? Remember earlier on when I said the fact that your name merely appears does not necessarily mean that there's anything wrong? According to the CBC fact check, if one searches the online directory of publicly available Epstein files, his name is mentioned in dozens of documents, mostly from 2013 to 2030 during his time as governor of the Bank of England. None of the documents show any communication. None of the documents show any communication between Carney and Epstein. Mostly, his name appears in daily emails and newsletters about events such as being named to the position of governor of the Bank of England, or news articles related to banking and financing. Two emails with involve him. Two emails that mentioned him deal with an investigation that happened in the UK. There was a scandal that involving the firm London Capital Finance. In that case, the judge ruled in 2024 that the firm was indeed a Ponzi scheme and 5 men were held liable. However, Carney himself was never named in that judgment. Also, there's an email that matches him related to a luncheon in his capacity of government of the Bank of England, but there's no record that Epstein had ever attended that event. There's one email from October 2025, which is greater than 6 years after Epstein's death, that mentions his name as part of an Associated Press headline related to doubling exports, Canadian exports to non-US countries. There have been fake images circulating all over the web showing allegedly Mark Carney sitting next to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's sitting next to Tom Hanks at Epstein's Island. These images are fake. There are some images that are real, taken, I think, is August 10th, 2013, at an event in Oxfordshire, England, where you see Mark Carney talking to someone, and he is in proximity to Ghislaine Maxwell, who is with someone else. It would appear that Mark Carney's wife's sister went to school with Ghislaine Maxwell, and therefore it would happen that they could bump into each other at public events. People took those pictures and then ran with it and said, "Oh, look at, they're friends, they're buddies." There's no relationship between them. Now, here's the real hypocrisy. Those CPC influencers in short pants who claim to have not gotten any special access whatsoever. They want you to believe that they actually care about child exploitation, given how they reacted to 69 mentions of Mark Carney, the person who plays the character of Mario on Jitter, actually tweeted, "Just pointing out the obvious hypocrisy. If Pierre Polyev was photographed on the floor, hanging out smiling with a convicted international sex trafficker, then years later his name showed up 69 times in the Epstein files, the CBC and every major news outlet would be all over it all day, every day. The left would be calling for his resignation, and everyone would be relentlessly asking questions about it. And they wonder why people continue to lose trust in the mainstream media." CBC was on it. That's how we got the fact check. CBC went into the file, the database, looked up Mark Carney, pulled out every single one of those 69 references, and then read each one of those 69 references to find out what they were about. Mario either did not, just saw 69 references and said, "Oh my God, he's guilty," or did and still published this anyway. And calls it pointing out obvious hypocrisy. Well, you know what? Since we are pointing out obvious hypocrisy here, here's some real obvious hypocrisy. These influencers in short pants who are allegedly not being supported in any way financially whatsoever by the Conservative Party of Canada lose their minds and break out into hives at 69 mentions of Mark Carney in those files, when the name of the orange cult leader whose ground they worship, Donald Trump himself, is mentioned greater than 38,000 times in that database. Nada. Peep out of them. Those 69 times that Mark Carney is mentioned directly related to his job in finance. Oh my God, horrible. You should be all over this, exploiting this, and oh my God, destroying his reputation. But 38,000 mentions Donald Trump, and his name doesn't even get a whisper. Pierre Polyev didn't even mention him once in his speech trying to secure his leadership. So when you have a man mentioned 69 times, and every mention is related to his role in terms as a banker and financier and governor of Bank of England and that type of stuff, and you lose your mind because you care so much about pedophilia and child exploitation and human trafficking and sex trafficking, but some other guy is mentioned 38,000 times, and well, you love him. What does that say to how much you actually care about child exploitation and sex trafficking and pedophilia and child porn and torture videos and stuff of the like? Yeah, it doesn't paint a good picture, does it? Who are the real hypocrites? And this is only going to get worse as this Epstein stuff has gone global, with all these other nations doing their own investigations and things going bad in the United States at a rapid speed for Donald Trump and pals. So buckle up, kits and cubs, because the bovine fecal matter is going to fly over the next while. But let there be no doubt whatsoever. As for most things the current iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada pretends to care about, for example, blackface, Indigenous rights. Remember, the only reason they raise these issues, the only reason they are raising the issue of child exploitation right at this moment is to use it as a cudgel with which to beat their political opponents over the head. They don't actually care about the kids or the victims. They don't care about the people being exploited. They only care about those victims if they can use them as an inanimate object with which to bash their own opponents over the head. They too are exploiting them. Because if you actually cared about the kids, I don't know how many times 69 goes into 38,000. But that's the number of times more you should be apoplectic about Donald Trump. And maybe you should be apoplectic about members in the only part in the party you are supporting and championing, adopting similar tactics and wanting us to get closer to him and to drop everything else in the world in order to be able to make a deal. And yet, Kit Saucy, it's not Trump's route that worries me, it's Thiel's. Yeah. Yep, Peter Thiel. Yep, I hear you. These people don't care about victims. Pierre doesn't care about homelessness. He cares about filming the tents. Pierre doesn't care about addiction. He cares about filming people on the streets who have succumbed to despair and getting on video. So he can say liberals are bad. Pierre Poilievre doesn't care about the price of housing. He cares about filming someone's house and calling it a shack. So he can bash liberals on housing. Pierre does not care about Indigenous people not having water, but he does care about Indigenous people if they are okay with a pipeline crossing their territory. They use people. They exploit them. They exploit their tragedies, they exploit their miseries, and then they use it to bash their political opponents with it. This is who they are. It's kind of hard to segue out of that, isn't it? But there is a segue. Because if you were watching the Super Bowl, you may have seen it. I'm not sure if the ad aired in Canada, but in the United States, during the Super Bowl, there was an ad that was taken out where many of the survivors of that which Jeffrey Epstein is responsible, or alleged to have been responsible, to have done to them, wanted to call attention to what has happened. Good. Good. Bring it. Bring it to the biggest stage. Bring it to the bigger stage. According to Newsweek, MAGA reacts to Epstein survivors running ad on Super Bowl Sunday. I wonder what the reaction to that would be, according to Steve Ballmer from Newsweek. People associated with the Make America Great Again movement have responded critically to an ad released on Super Bowl Sunday related to the Epstein files. In the ad, survivors of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein called for full transparency in the sex trafficking scandal that has gripped the world's attention. Everybody should be wanting that, right? Why it matters. While there is bipartisan support for releasing more information from the Epstein files, there is also suspicion among some in MAGA movement that the political strategy and timing are also at play. Gee, you don't say. But about 130 million people are going to tune in. And a lot of people, so there's some people that watch the Super Bowl for the ads more than for the game. Yeah, why would they choose this particular moment to put that ad on? Of course, it's political strategy and timing. But you say that like it's a bad thing. Unbelievable. Stand with us. Tell Attorney General Pam Bondi it's time for the truth, states the ad. But some MAGA commentators question the timing. One, Matt Walsh, wrote on X, "I'm all for releasing the files. These women could also just name their abusers at any time. They have." Or at least who they think responsible is. Maybe the other ones, that they're not naming them because, well, there have been threats. We're talking about powerful people with means, resources. Right? For crime, motive, means, opportunity. Those are the three things you need. They have. "I'm all for releasing the files. These women could also just name their abusers at any time. Instead, they've embarked on a months-long publicity campaign, which curiously didn't start until after the exact moment Biden left office." Walsh, who hosts an eponymous political commentary podcast published via the Daily Wire, also wrote, "For those claiming that they can't name names because they'll be sued, they could simply give the names to any of their many and most very recently advocates in Congress who could read the names out loud from the floor, insulating themselves and these women from any litigation, but they refuse to do so. Why? Threats, violence, intimidation." And that's why Thomas Massey has that thumb drive and is threatening to do the exact same thing that you request here, that you suggest, Mr. Walsh. Billionaire ex-owner Elon Musk replied to that, quote, "I will pay for the defense of anyone who speaks the truth about this and is sued for doing so." The X account, yeah, I don't believe that. The X account at 5strat, which aligns closely with the MAGA movement, posted, "Everyone who is following this closely knows that there are two Epstein files narratives. All these women have to do is drop names and let the chips fall where they may, but they keep milking it. Why? Eventually their reputation will be seriously damaged by this. Payday?" The MAGA supporter, mostly peaceful Latinos, wrote on X, "This ad was paid for by World Without Exploitation, which is sponsored by the Tides Foundation, a progressive organization behind Antifa riots and other social justice causes. This is exactly why Trump said this was a hoax. This is a coordinated and well-funded PR campaign to undermine his administration." Yeah, most PR campaigns are well-funded and coordinated. And that's why they're called PR campaigns. They're funded and coordinated. Because the campaign to dismiss these people as looking for a payday is not well coordinated and funded, right? On CNN, Mr. Massey, Representative Massey, said, quote, "The Democrats want to make this about Trump and the Republicans want to make it about the Clintons. I wanted to make it about the survivors and getting them justice and transparency." Senate Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "The most important ad you will see on Super Bowl Sunday, you don't move on from the largest sex trafficking ring in the world. You expose it." Democratic U.S. Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland There's no way you run $1 billion international child sex trafficking ring with just 2 people committing crimes, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. No way. It doesn't work like that. Now, the Super Bowl caused MAGA to break out into hives for other reasons. Senor Benito Ocasio. I know his name is longer than that, but otherwise known as Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny may have to soon change his name to Badass Bunny, because that was a performance. And I have to say that I had the wonderful benefit of happening to be in Mexico when that happened. My Beaver sweetie and I were enjoying the sunset, and we were walking back from that, and everywhere on the streets, cafes, restaurants, there were TVs. Places where there are normally not TVs, so we're not just talking about the sports bars here. Places where there are normally not TVs. People brought TVs and extension cords and put them out on the patios and in the restaurants and whatnot, specifically so everyone could enjoy the halftime show. Because Bad Bunny is the first Latin artist to be performed. Recently won 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year. And his Album of the Year award was the first one ever given by the Grammy organization for an album that was not in English as Album of the Year. This is big. He is probably the most streamed artist right now on the planet. Debí tirar más fotos is the name of his album. Now, I don't really speak Spanish. I speak French. I have a smattering of Spanish that allows me to get by. Everybody goes, because my pronunciation is pretty good. Ah, you speak Spanish? No, I speak Chicano. I massacre the language. I do. But I can get by-ish. I don't know what he's singing about either. I don't care. A good song's a good song. A good beat's a good beat. And this guy knows how to make music. From what I am reading about him, he is very meticulous in terms of planning and detail and everything. Absolutely. He delivered an incredible performance that was, as far as I'm concerned, the perfect countertone to what is going on at the moment. And again, you have to understand that if you're watching, to have the opportunity to watch it while being in a nation where it is going to hit, right? This was not only a moment of Puerto Rican pride and affirmation. It was a moment it was a global cultural moment for many Latin nations. And Bad Bunny clearly understood the assignment in that performance. Now, when we saw it the first time, we didn't get to see all of it because we had arrived while it was in progress. By the time we got to the televisions, it was around the time that Lady Gaga was performing within the set. There was a post by Michael Garrett in the North Carolina Senate that really struck me. I'd like to read it to you. I watched Bad Bunny deliver the most American halftime show I have ever seen. Then I came home and watched it again, and I am not okay in the best possible way. He sang every single word in Spanish, every single word. I think there might have been one or two little things in English, but let's just say he sang every single word. He danced through sugarcane fields built on a football field in California while the President of the United States sat somewhere calling it, quote, disgusting. Lady Gaga came out and did the salsa. Ricky Martin lit up the night. Lady Gaga did provide some content in English, by the way. A couple got married on the field. He handed his Grammy, the one he won 8 days ago for Album of the Year, to a little boy who looked up at him the way every child looks up when they dare to believe the world has a place for them. And then this man, this son of a truck driver and a school teacher from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, stood on the biggest stage on the planet and said, God bless America. And then he started naming them. Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, the United States, Canada. And then his voice breaking with everything he carries. Mi patria, Puerto Rico, seguimos aquí. My homeland, Puerto Rico, we are still here. The flags came, every single one of them carried across that field by dancers and musicians while the Jumbotron lit up with the only words that mattered. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. I teared up. I'm not ashamed to say it. I sat on my couch and I wept because that is the America I believe in. That is the American story, not the sanitized, gated, English-only version that small and frightened people try to sell us. The real one, the messy, beautiful, multilingual, multicolored, courageous one. The one that has always been built by hands that speak every language and pray in every tongue and come from every corner of this hemisphere. Or maybe, as one would call it, a cultural mosaic? Multiculturalism, maybe? That we have in Canada and conservatives are trying to make us believe is a terrible thing, rather than a melting pot. That is the America I want Jack and Charlotte, I'm guessing that these are his kids, to know. That when the moment came, when the whole world was watching, a Puerto Rican kid who grew up to become the most streamed artist on earth stood in front of 100 million people, sang in his mother's language, blessed every nation in the Americas, and spiked a football that read, "Together we are America," into the ground, not with anger, with joy, with love so big it made hate look exactly as small as it is. And what did the president do? He called it absolutely terrible. He said, nobody understands a word this guy is saying. He called it a slap in the face to our country. The leader of the free world watched a celebration of love, culture, and everything this hemisphere has given to the world, and all he could see was something foreign, something threatening, something disgusting. Let that sink into your bones. The man who was supposed to represent all of us looked at the flags of our neighbors, heard the language of 500 million Americans across this hemisphere, and felt attacked. That's not strength. That's not patriotism. That is poverty of the soul. And then there was the Turning Point show, because, of course, right, you can't allow a Puerto Rican man to have his moment. You need to counter-program that. And then there was the Turning Point show, Kid Rock, in a college arena in North Dakota. 3 million viewers watching a man who once wrote a song about liking underage girls perform as, quote, the family-friendly alternative to a Puerto Rican artist celebrating love. They called it the all-American halftime show, as if America has a velvet rope, as if this country belongs to some of us and not all of us, as if you need to sing in English to count. The inference being that the halftime show at the Super Bowl was not all American. Puerto Rico is a part of the United States of America. It's not a state, but they are Americans. Not only on the continent, not only in the continental sense of the word. Here's what I want to say to everyone who posted about that show tonight, who shared it proudly, who turned away from Bad Bunny's celebration because it was in Spanish and the flags weren't only red, white, and blue. Your children will see those posts. Your grandchildren will find them. The internet doesn't forget. And one day when the history of this moment is written, when our kids and their kids look back at 2026, the way we look back at the people who stood on the wrong side of every bridge and every march and every moment that mattered, they will know exactly where you stood. They will see who chose Kid Rock or Skid Croc over a hemisphere of flags. They will see who called love disgusting, and they will carry that knowledge the way all of us carry the knowledge of what our ancestors did when they were tested. I don't say that with anger. I say it with sadness, because hate is an inheritance nobody asks for, and yet it gets passed down just the same. Bad Bunny didn't say ice out tonight, as he did on the Grammys when he delivered his acceptance speeches. He didn't need to. He just showed the world what America looks like when we are not afraid of each other. When culture is shared, not policed. When language is music, not a threat. When a flag from every nation in this hemisphere can walk across a football field together and the only words you need are the ones he gave us. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. Over 100 million people saw that tonight, and no Truth Social post can take that away. Whoa. That's something. So when I was here, and I caught a glimpse of the maple leaf near the end, the Canadian flag, when he said Canada. And when the moment was over, everybody was wrapped with attention. And the second it was over, you could hear the cheering from blocks around. I don't know if you can imagine what that feeling is like to be able to share that with so many people, that moment. But it's a moment I'm not going to forget. It's right up there. Certain sporting events, for example, when I happened to be in Italy during the World Cup, and Italy was playing the UK, and my Beaver sweetie and I went to a pub to watch a match there, and Italy won. Or when I was in Romania for the final of the French Open, and we were in a field, and they brought this big jumbotron, not jumbotron, but huge television, and there was a whole bunch of people in that field cheering for Simona Halep when she was playing against Maria Sharapova, hoping that she would win a Grand Slam title. Or in 2000, probably the biggest moment of my life in terms of that type of thing, when I was at the International AIDS Conference in Durban, South Africa. And Nelson Mandela walked into the room with Bill Clinton to deliver an address. And I could hear the joy and the singing and the celebration of every South African in that room when he walked in. That feeling, that emotion, you can't. If you've ever been in a situation like that, where there's a huge cultural moment in a nation that is not yours, within a culture with which you do not adhere to, but you're there and you get to bask in it, that is an immense privilege. And I got to feel that on Super Bowl Sunday. This man captured the moment. And the general consensus is that he nailed the assignment here. There is, and I have to state, when I was watching, I went back home and I watched the whole performance from beginning to end. Everyone was represented. Men, women, non-binary people, gender diverse people, old and young were in that performance. And there were at least 2 occasions where very, very prominently I saw even rainbow representation. 2 men body rolling suggestively, front to front. Another 2 men, what I assume is salsa dancing. And the camera didn't just like shy away, the camera stayed on them for a bit. Everyone was welcome at that party. And for me, when I saw that, it just sent the message to me that someone was saying, hey, this is our hemisphere too. It's a beautiful moment. It really is a beautiful moment. Moving on to other things, kids and cubs. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because I'm sure there's more to come and we'll be able to deal with it on other shows. But Jamil Jivani, remember, he came to the United States because allegedly he was going to help us with Trump and to negotiate something and get a deal. And then he came back as Trump's carrier pigeon, telling us how much Trump loved us. He loves us. Don't worry, Canada. Trump loves us. Everything will be fine. Well, we got a sense just the other day of just how much Trump loves us because the Gordie Howe Bridge is about, I guess, is going to be ready to be opened at some point. And, Donald Trump, real estate guy that he is, apparently would like half of it, despite the fact that the United States contributed absolutely nothing because the Ambassador Bridge, as it exists now, is a privately owned bridge, and the people who own it didn't want any U.S. funding going to another bridge that would take business away from it. So Canada said, okay, fine, we'll pay for it all of it. And now that it is built and ready to go, now, all of a sudden, 5 days. 5 days after Jamil Jivani told us, assured us that Trump loves us. And remember when I said we all know what Trump's love is like? We get this. As everyone knows, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. Now things are turning around for the USA and fast. But imagine, Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. Yeah, you just found out about that now? They own both Canada and the United States side. They own both the Canada and United States side, and of course built it with virtually no US content because you guys did not want to participate. Dumbass. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. Now the Canadian government expects me, as President of the United States, to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Actually, you get ease of trade. But you're not interested in that. You've made that very clear. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products back on their shelves. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so. No, they're not prohibited from doing so. Nobody told them that you can't. We just decided that we're not. My God. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with Canada. Well, at least he's back to being Prime Minister. Wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. Trump just went. Trump just, you know it. We just get all the leftovers. I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. The tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. No, it's not true. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also, importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. If we can start, if it's everything that you have given us recently, we are happy to give it back to you, buddy. If you want us to repay you for everything you personally have given us, Donald Trump, we'd be very happy to do so. Why don't you come over here and say that? Unbelievable. And also, importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. Respect is earned, not demanded. We will start negotiations immediately. Without that we have given them, we should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, Jamil, how does it feel to be the equivalent of Kleenex? You went down there, face down, belly down, ass up. You acted like Trump's carrier pigeon, brought back his message, and 5 days later, he blew himself into you and threw you in the wastebasket. Who authorized the trip? Who paid for it? How much did it cost? With physical receipts. We need to know. Because this is not okay. And that's all I have to say about that for the current moment. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and peeps all about us. We really love it, especially when you include a little bit of yourself as to why it is our content resonated with you. We thank you so much for doing that. If you would like to help us, kids and cubs, you can do so by going to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated page on YouTube. This QR code will definitely get you there if you scan it. Kids Elaine and Kathy will definitely approve of you smashing with our buttons. Like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little tickle. You know we ain't fickle. Plus, it helps us with the algorithm, so we really appreciate your help. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, let's say financially, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. If you scan this QR code, it will bring you to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund at our coffee page. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there, a couple of loonies or toonies into our tip jar can do a lot to keep your favorite beaver nice and moist. Because a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. And of course, we have Super Chat and we have also memberships on our YouTube page if you can support us that way. And kids and cubs, if you're doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and you can send us a direct donation there, which bypasses all the CE tech bros in the United States. 100% of your donation comes to us to allow us to do what we do, so you get more beaver bang for your buck, and we really appreciate that. And if you're not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your participation and attention are the ones that matter the most to us, and we want to hear from you, so please write to us at that same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, or have us send us some guest suggestions. And on that front, kids and cubs, if you remember, several months ago, I told you that we had lined up a very big guest that might be our biggest guest yet. And the interview did not happen. And then we did not hear from them for a while. We did hear from them a couple of days ago, and it looks like we might be rescheduling. So that might be on again. Again, I don't want to say who it is, because once again, I don't want to say, people say if it doesn't happen, yeah, you promised and then you didn't deliver. But I'm very, very excited about this. And if this happens, oh my God, it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. But if you do have guest suggestions and all that kind of stuff, please send it to us. We love to hear from you. Kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do, we have some petitions for you, kids and cubs. And this time, I actually do have the numbers for you because some of them are closing. So February 16th, so 6 more days to sign House of Commons petition 7027. So go to our Commons CA and look for petition 7027, which is a petition initiated by Lisa Salazar from Vancouver, British Columbia, that asks the Minister of Health to invoke the disallowance clause to protect our transgender brother and sisters from unconstitutional laws in Alberta and Saskatchewan, which seeks to limit their ability to exist in public space as full and complete humans, and they had their right to challenge it in court removed by use of the notwithstanding clause. So if you could go there, and of course that one has more than 30,000 signatures so far and closes on February 16th. We have one that closes on February 18th with 18,000 signatures. We really need to get that up, which would, of course, encourage the House of Commons to pass legislation such that media in Canada would be owned by Canadians and operated for the benefit of Canadians. Very important petition. But there's a new one that has come out, and I know Kit Linda, you sent me another one. I'm not going to mention it today because I'll focus the attention on this one, but I will be mentioning it eventually. But Bruce Fanjoy is sponsoring a petition, House of Commons petition E7148. And this is a very, very important one, kids and cubs. It might have the potential to become the most signed petition in Canadian history. I hope that is the case. Of course, Tom Slukasik set the bar pretty high with the Forever Canadian movement. But petition E7148 states, whereas Canada faces increasing national security risks in a complex and shifting geopolitical landscape, and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, warns that political parties, elected officials, and candidates are potential targets for foreign interference. In this context, it is in Canada's national interest for every federal party leader to hold top secret security clearance. This ensures that all leaders are properly briefed on potential national security threats with their respective parties and take timely, informed actions to protect Canada's interests. And whereas the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada refuses to seek top secret security clearance, and this is a failure of leadership and exposes Canada to avoidable national security risks, we, the undersigned citizens, call upon the House of Commons to require all federal party leaders to obtain and maintain top secret security clearance to ensure they are fully informed of threats to Canada's national security and able to act decisively to protect Canadians and our democracy. We have been calling for this on the show ever since this permission for this has been granted to other party leaders, and they have availed of themselves of it. Even the Bloc Québécois leader, Mr. Blanchet, has. But Pierre Poilievre will not. Just will not. He will not do the basic minimum required to show that he has some allegiance to this country and wanting to do all he can to keep it safe. The petition opened February 6th. I believe I signed it on the very, very first day. I encourage you to do so. And it closes April 7th, so it has about 2 months, and it is already amassed 29,477 signatures. It's getting some press, so hopefully, please circulate it. We need to get this one at very high numbers because it's the legislature's job to legislate. And Pierre won't do it. And when Pierre not doing it, he becomes potential security breach. He also becomes a big neon flashing sign to anybody who would like to commit foreign interference, indicating, hey, I'm open for business, and we cannot have that. So please go to ourcommons.ca/petitions/en/petition/details?petition equals E-7148. That's the full link. Fortunately, I can't post it. Hopefully someone from the Dan fam will post it in the chat, and go there and please sign that petition. All right. words of wisdom, kids and cubs, enjoy. Well, again, maybe wear sunscreen isn't where you are, isn't very helpful where you are. But kids and cubs, this is the time. This is the time. We need to do the things that are necessary. Cannot be complacent. So keep vigilant and be ready to do democracy and put your body in the game, because this is the moment that matters. Right? Hey, tough world out there, kids and cubs. Please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. And at the count of 3, may I please hear you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, I heard you. And since you asked so nicely, I will oblige. And today it seems we will have time for a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. And we have some good news to report. So here we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
We have some things to celebrate because according to CBC at Milano Cortina 2026, Canada's short track speed skating team have won Olympic silver in the mixed team relay. William Danjanu, who might emerge as Canada's star of the games, Courtney Sarot, Félix Roussel, and Kim Boutin won Olympic silver in the short track speed skating mixed team relay final. Italy won gold on home ice by crossing the line in 2 minutes 39.019 seconds, and Canada finished in 2:39.258, while Belgium claimed bronze in 2:39.353. My God, the margins are so thin. Danjanu was happy to be on the podium with his teammates in his Olympic debut, but the back-to-back individual Crystal Globe winner is still looking for more. Quote, "It sets the tone. It's nice to have and to share as a team," Danjanu said. "Obviously, I wanted more, but I always want more. I've been competing against Olympians for the last 4 years, against medalists for the last few years, so I don't see as this representing who I am as a person. But you can never be sad about a silver medal, especially at this level." Fellow Canadians Florence Brunel and Stephen Dubois also received medals as they helped Canada advance in their quarterfinal and semi-final heats. It marked the 5th medal of Boutin's Olympic career, which will come to a close with these games. The silver was also the very first Olympic medal of Sarot's career and is something that's convinced the 2-time overall World Tour champion that the team is on the right track. "I knew the team was strong and that we could achieve something great together," Sarot said. "Going into the competition knowing that you have a chance of medaling with a strong team does not necessarily take the pressure off, but in a way it does." So there we go. This represents the 30th time Canadians have climbed the Olympic podium since short track was added to the Olympic program at Albertville in 1992, and there are more medal expectations for Canadian short track skaters in Italy. The first day of competition also saw Sarot, Boutin, and Brunel book their spots in the women's 500-meter quarterfinals. Danjanu and Roussel advanced to the quarterfinals of the men 1,000. Dubois was eliminated from contention in the 1,000 after a collision with Great Britain's Neil Tracy during their heat. That's a shame because he was a favorite there. Canada now has 3 medals won by its athletes at the Games. There's also news that Captain Clutch Marie-Philippe Poulain will be out of the match against the United States in the round-robin competition here in pool play. And good news, Diana Stellato-Dudek, figure skater in pairs with Maxime Deschamps, has been cleared to compete in the free skate. So hopefully things will go well there. All right, that's all I've got for you, kids and cubs. Amour et bisous.